Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my parents' basement, your parents' basement, our parents' basement, and on today's movie review, it's a special one, not in terms of it being a special movie or anything, just because we're doing a fan film instead of a studio-released film. It's Spider-Man Lotus. Spider-Man Lotus was directed by Gavin, starring Warden Wayne, Sean Thomas Reid, and Moriah Brooklyn. It was written by Gavin, Sean Thomas Reid, and Warden Wayne. Following the tragic death of his former girlfriend, seemingly caused by his own attempt to save her, Peter Parker lingers in his guilt of the past, questioning whether the curse of his alter ego should be buried for good. When he is met by the news that a terminally ill child has requested to meet Spider-Man, Peter contemplates the decision to comfort him in his final days. For people that have followed this film from the beginning, it has been a wild roller coaster of events. The film started off as one of the most promising fan films ever made in the history of fan films, had huge support. The pictures released during production had a lot of people excited, and from what was promised to the fans, it seemed like a story that we weren't really getting. This was at the height of the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy. I think this was right around Far From Home. And at that point, people were feeling that Tom Holland's Spider-Man wasn't giving us the Spider-Man that we wanted, that we needed. It didn't have the same emotional depth that he has in the comics, at least in his classic appearances. It didn't touch anywhere near the Andrew Garfield or Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. And so this was going to be a breath of fresh air in that world. But then a bunch of controversies came out surrounding the director and the lead actor. And from that point on, it went into obscurity. Some of the actors, a part of the piece, said that they didn't want to have anything to do with it anymore. They had already given their portrayal in, but they weren't going to talk about it anymore. They were done. They were moving on from their life of it. Some of the artists quit, not only because of the controversies, but because they claimed they were being overworked and underpaid. And so it was just it became a big disaster once that stuff leaked out about controversial sayings and inappropriate comments, and the movie just tanked after that. And it quietly kind of came out 4 or 5 days ago at this point. And like I said, it came out quietly. Not a lot of people cared about this movie anymore. Like I said, it was going to be this huge thing, giving us the Spider-Man we wanted, being a passion project from these Spider-Man fans at heart. And it became this, we've already put this much money into it, we can't bury this thing like Warner Brothers and Batgirl. We got to put this thing out. Let's give it our best effort, but at the end of the day, this is a sunken ship. The captain on the Titanic, what are you going to do? And going into the movie, I didn't want to think about those controversies, because there were a lot of people that did put a lot of hard work into this movie to make it something special, besides the director and the lead actor, who made some poor choices in the past. And I don't know them personally, so I can't judge their character, but I can look at their actions and say, these aren't very good decisions. You got to be smarter than this. This is inappropriate and child's play. Even the child should know better. And I still tried to look at the piece separate. Here's the cold truth. It's not a very good movie. And I'm like, I don't want to sit here and try and be cruel about it. That's the last thing I want to do. These people aren't professionals. They're fans. They were given money through various funding materials and sources, and they went out there and made a story that was meaningful to them. They tried to be artists, and that's something that should be accepted and pushed upon more people. We want artists. We want people to express themselves. If anything, the movie industry is becoming more business-minded, more AI-centric, and we need these voices out here. But unfortunately, keep your voice down. Spider-Man Lotus is by no means a terrible movie. I got through it just fine. Some people out there are saying, it's an awful film, it's dog crap, it's dog water, it should be burned, it's a disgrace to everything ever created by Spider-Man. It's not to that level. It is too long, that's a fact. It's a 2-hour runtime on YouTube. The movie itself is about 1:43, and then the credits roll. But it's way too long at the 1:43 mark. There's plenty of scenes that could have been cut. There's plenty of dialogue scenes that go on far too long. And I think one of the biggest problems with this movie is a lot of people went in expecting based on the stills released, the Green Goblin and Spider-Man fight, they probably assumed that this was going to be a little bit more action-centric of a film, and it's not. It's a lot more character-based. It's a character study on Peter Parker, on Mary Jane Watson, on Harry Osborn, and that's the biggest problem right there. Not that it's a character study, but because it's a character study of 3 characters. Yes, their inciting incident of their arcs that are required is all the same event. It's Gwen Stacy's death. But this movie tries to divvy up the time to explore everybody, and it just doesn't have the time, nor does it have the writing capacity to make it all interesting. There's a lot of scenes where people just talk and talk and talk in a very melodramatic way, and some of the acting is good, some of the acting is bad. It's a very inconsistent acted movie. There's actors that are in here, and one scene they're really solid, the next scene they're abysmal, the next scene they're okay, the next scene they're abysmal, the next scene they're okay. There's probably only one performance, and I'm not going to name names, but there's only one performance I think that was really not that good at all. And it's a very limited screen time role. There's only one character that I thought was kind of like, ooh, that wasn't good in any aspect. It never was believable, it never was comprehensible, it was never very entertaining or emotional. It was just bland. And it felt like someone was acting their very best, and they just weren't a good actor. I'm not trying to insult anybody, that's why I'm not going to say names, but it's just kind of a mess of a movie. They wanted to do so much, and there was just so little that they could actually do. The opening sequence of the Shocker is quite shocking in how poorly it's I hate to say it's poorly directed, but it's just not interesting. It's just, there's no interesting shots. The action doesn't come across very good. It's choreographed and not very well. Spider-Man does like flips, and we just see him land. Like we see him start the flip and land the flip. We never see the flip. And like I said, there's no point to the action. It's just action for the sake of being action. It doesn't show character to a further degree. It's just kind of there because we expect it to be there. And it has its point in the story, technically speaking, and Peter Parker ends up being late, but that has no effect either. It doesn't do anything to the story. So I think the biggest thing about this movie is that it tries so hard to be so many different things. It needed somebody to come in and say, okay, we got to slow our roll down. It needed someone to say no. And it takes on too much. I think this movie, if anything, should have been just about Peter Parker talking with the child, the sick child who asks to meet him. All the other stuff shouldn't have been in there. It can be referenced. Peter Parker can be in his slump because those things happened, but we don't need to see them. We don't do enough to know about Gwen. We don't do enough to explore the relationship these 4 people have. It's all through exposition and dialogue about reminiscing. There's one scene in particular I did like. It's when Peter Parker kind of goes Matt Damon-esque and Reboot a Zoo and watches old footage. I thought it was really well done, really well directed. The music was great. I've seen this this is probably the 2 most consistent pluses I've seen in this movie are really good score. The composers, the score itself is fantastic, and I've seen a lot of people say that the CGI, the few CGI scenes in this movie were well done. I won't go so far as to say the score is fantastic. I like the mix, the homage they pay to all the different Spider-Man themes. But overall, I feel the music is just kind of repetitive at times. And as for the CG, there are some really good CG scenes. The scene where he's swinging through the city is fantastic. But there's scenes where he's like standing still on top of a building in the rain that I didn't think were that convincing. There's a scene where a car speeds through the streets, and I didn't think that was very convincing. And I get that you got a certain budget and you got to stay within the budget. I'm all for that. I understand. You can't really speed a Toyota down the street, cut in and out of cars. It's just not legal. So I get you got to CGI it. But, I mean, I got to be honest here. I didn't think it was quite good. I would say the same for a professional film. I'm trying to be nicer as it is. I don't like to be negative. I don't want to come out here and say the movie was trash in every aspect of being a movie. It was buns. I don't want to say that. I just want to say my honest opinion in a way that doesn't negate the bad things about this movie, but doesn't overly accentuate the bad things about this movie. There are some moments of direction that I think are intriguing. Usually during the swinging scenes, I like the way the camera moves, how it tilts and turns, either with or opposed to the way Spider-Man moves. But as for that, but beyond that, there isn't a lot of really interesting direction going on here. There's no unique shots that mirror characters' feelings. If anything, there's awkward shots that don't make a lot of sense. They're framed okay. I mean, it doesn't look all that spectacular. And being a Spider-Man fan myself, I would want to throw in as many homages to Sam Raimi as I could. Even Mark Webb's got some cool moments and cool shots that I'd want to put in there somehow, especially since this movie is kind of like a mixture of everything that is beloved about Spider-Man, but that never happens. And there's there's a lot of outfits that remind me of past iterations of Peter Parker, whether it be Tobey Maguire or in the comics. I liked that touch. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of a bland movie that doesn't really do much for anything. Unless you're a huge fan of Spider-Man, unless you're a huge fan of fan films, I wouldn't waste my time watching this movie. It doesn't really do anything new. And that's probably on top of everything my biggest complaint. It adapts 2 comic books in particular. Spider-Man Blue is the one that probably takes the most from, which is the death of Gwen Stacy. And then it takes from, I forget what issue it is, but I know the moment from the Spider-Man 90s series where Peter Parker as Spider-Man goes to visit a terminally ill child. And that child, kind of in a way, inspires him to continue being Spider-Man. It borrows from those 2, pushes the story together, but it doesn't do it better than any rendition that I've ever seen do it before. It trudges along the moments, it poorly hits emotional beats, characters go through complete arcs and 180 flips of emotion and of how they're feeling towards another person or how they're feeling about a situation. They go through these 180 twists, 180 degree twists in a matter of seconds due to 1 2-minute conversation. It's very hard to get into this movie because it's so obviously handicapped. And like I said, people who made this movie, they tried hard. They really admired and loved the character. They like movies, I would assume. And I hate to be cruel, but sometimes it just ain't your day. You know? Sometimes it just ain't your day. Like I've been saying, the last thing I want to do is crap all over this movie. My props to the people involved. You tried your best, you cared, and you went out there and you made something. You made something. And a lot of people are going to talk trash about it, and a lot of people are going to say that it's crap and that it shouldn't be watched, it shouldn't have been made. But you made something, and that's something that should be celebrated, even if it isn't exactly what it could have been or what it turned out to be, or even if it isn't critically appraised or beloved. You made something. And the whole message of the movie is that Spider-Man sees that although he's not immune to creating havoc and being a part of damage and hurting people, his overall impact on people, his impact on people is greater than that. And so think about that if you made this movie. Think about, for the one person out there that did like this movie, at least you did something for them. Or maybe you inspired someone to make a better movie or do something. Basically, at the end of the day, I'm not someone that likes to hate on things and crap all over them. I like movies, and I like to like movies. But that being said, I didn't like this movie for the most part. It's not irredeemable, but I'd be lying if I said it was good. Take that as you will. If you're interested, do check it out. I can assure you, if you don't want to give money to the people involved because of their irresponsible behavior, they can't make money off it. It's a fan film. They are legally unable to make money off of it. It would be against the copyright. They do not own Spider-Man. They can't make money. So watch it to your heart desires. You didn't donate any money for the project. I didn't donate any money to the project. We're in the clear. But anyway, guys, I'm not going to grade this movie like I would a studio-released or backed movie. I'm not going to give it a letter grade. I'm not going to give it a star grade. I'm just going to simply say, overall, I feel like I couldn't admire it. I couldn't like it. I couldn't get into it because I feel like it just couldn't justify its existence. And there was too much of, I want to do this, instead of, we should do this for the sake of the story. And then I don't know the behind-the-scenes backstory of all this stuff. I don't know if, they wanted to do these scenes in particular and said, no matter what, we're putting it in, or if they did honestly think it flowed well with the story. But either way, I was not a fan of Spider-Man Lotus. Let me know what you guys thought of the movie down in the comments below. Like, subscribe if you liked the video and want to see more movie reviews like this or any of the other videos that I do. I'm kind of in a revamp of the channel here. Our Parents' Basement is back. So stay tuned for some cool videos where we might do some movie poster quizzes, some various movie-related quizzes, go to the store, look at Blu-rays, possibly make some awesome purchases, go physical media, and of course, keep with the movie reviews. So anyway guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time in My Parents' Basement, Your Parents' Basement, Our Parents' Basement.